Welcome to Business Talk, and time to talk about digital natives. And we're not talking about our children growing up and being digital first in everything they do. We're talking really about corporates and how they approach this digital first era that we're living in. And who better than to take us through it than Greg McLennan, who's CEO of DigiCloud Africa. And Greg, great to have you on the show. Really, DigiCloud has this idea of digital native at its core in what you do. But I think the term has been bandied about and part of our popular culture for a while now. So there could be some misconceptions about what it actually means. What do you consider a digital native?
Thank you, Mike. So what we consider a digital native are organizations that look at technology as the foundation of their business. I mean, there are all technical definitions or not, but the reality of what we see in the market is a digital native is an organization that leads with technology. They use this technology to build scale, to create customer experiences. Everything they do centers around the ability to leverage technology. Where this is different to a traditional organization has technology. They have an ERP, they have a CRM, whatever your three-letter acronym is, they have all of these different systems, but that's not the core of their business. That's not the core of the thing that makes them work. And like a clear difference between thinking with the digital native to, a normal traditional business would be a digital native thinks about what can the technology help me take forward with my idea, my innovation, my customer experience, my product, whatever the story is, and how do I leverage technology to its fullest to better that experience and innovate further. Whereas a traditional business would be thinking, okay, I need more distribution centers, I need more very operational thinking, and then what technology will underpin that? And that's, right, although not entirely the case for everyone, but that is what we see with digital natives, especially with the digital natives that become this unicorn that everyone wants to one day aspire toward. You all want to be the 2-day billionaire, but it's a digital native that is able to leverage the technology to achieve something like that. Maybe not a 2-day billionaire, but we'll see.
Well, if you figure out how to do that, you're probably trading Bitcoin on leverage or something like that. But it sounds to me like what you're doing is really, as a digital native business, looking through innovation and problem solving through this tech first lens. So what could traditional organizations learn from digital natives then, if this is quite an aspirational thing to achieve?
I think most traditional businesses have been looking at this even long before COVID. And you can think about banks, you can think mass retail, insurance, everyone is looking at how to leverage technology. And I think where the small adjustment comes in between a digital native and a traditional business leveraging technology really well is the traditional business is built from the ground up using technology as the foundation. A traditional business is still augmenting it. So what could a traditional business learn? I think one of the things that digital natives get really, really right is the ability to leverage things that maybe traditional businesses hadn't thought of leveraging. And when I say that, I mean things like, how do they take their data, not just the transaction flow and who the customers are in the CRM, but how do they take data that maybe they weren't utilizing, legacy data, and turn that into something that they can really use? How can they append things like machine learning to that? So I don't need necessarily more humans, but I can do a lot more with my data, with my information, and make my business that more agile, that more fit for purpose, that much more of a better experience for my customers that I can grow. So what that means is for many traditional businesses that they need to think differently. And sometimes, I mean, obviously some businesses have got like legacy technologies that go back quite some time, and some businesses have built their own technologies, their own platforms, and now they need to sort of take that next step. And that's a big shift. It's a big shift from the perspective of, do you have the capital within your team, technology-wise, to do that shift? And if you do have that, what platform are you going to go with in the future? Because what you don't want to do is end up having to innovate and innovate and innovate every time there's a new technology announced. And I think this is something that traditional businesses sort of look at digital natives and say, and aspirationally, how did they pull it off? How were they able to do it so quickly? How can a digital bank, process a transaction at 1/20th the cost of a legacy bank, as an example? So it should always be aspirational, and that's kind of how they're viewing it.
Yeah, and obviously you've then got to go, if you're not there yet, do an audit through the business to say, firstly, where are my digital skills? Where are the gaps? How do I improve that when I take my entire organization through this digital transformation journey. And it reminds me of the journey that Nedbank has undergone recently. I was chatting to Paul Morley about how they ripped and replaced a lot of those legacy systems and moved into the cloud. But since they've done that, that's given them this agility, this opportunity to plug in other APIs. Banking as a service is a big thing now, and do a lot more cool stuff with fintech. So it really sounds like the cloud is integral here, and obviously it's in your name, DigiCloud. But how does the cloud support digital natives?
So the cloud, when we talk about the cloud, before COVID, it was this sort of quite a big hype around the cloud. Everyone needs to go to the cloud, and it's COVID hit, and then people were sort of forced into the cloud with working remotely and the ability to access your systems without having to be at the company, et cetera, et cetera. So cloud leveraged that. So when people think of the cloud, they probably think it's just putting my data somewhere else, or putting my program somewhere else, or consuming a system. Where cloud is really, really fit for purpose for a digital native is the ability to leverage many different technologies, all within one place, and then just use and pay for what you need when you need it. If you think, many of these organizations, when they start out, they have an aspiration, to be the unicorn and grow and overtake and get their market share, take it away from others. And for that, they need to be able to scale. And unlike a traditional business that would have to, if they weren't using cloud, invest in more technology, more servers, more infrastructure, et cetera, leveraging the cloud means you click a button. Fire it up. In Google Cloud specifically, there's many services that are managed services, so you don't even have to worry about what's underlying it. You just consume. What's also important for a digital native, and when we think about digital natives, if I think about the pure entrepreneurial space, and Africa as a continent, and South Africa as a country, when we think about how important entrepreneurs are to our continued growth, then cloud technology speaks to that. I mean, it's the ability to fire things up as quickly as possible, test your ideas and take it to market, scale with it. If your idea needs 1 million people and 1 million people suddenly come, you can scale that. But at the same time, if your idea does not pan out, you've not invested tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands in equipment and service, you literally turn it off. Next idea. It allows you to fail fast and come back and then re-leverage. It also allows you to transition between technologies quite seamlessly. So you're able to find what the right fit for your business is, and you're not worried about, do you have an IT team to look after your infrastructure? Is the server working? Does the network work, et cetera, et cetera? So long as you're connected, you're winning.
And I guess in the African context, that as long as you're connected thing is a challenge, but I don't want to digress. I obviously see the value here of a new organization using Google Cloud to start up from first principles and to be digitally native really from the very start. What about legacy firms, though? What if you've invested in old systems and you've got an IT stack that you keep on throwing money at? How do you approach it?
Sure, it's a good question, and it's a tough question because you've got two schools of thought within a traditional business. They have legacy systems, and those systems do the job. They keep going, they keep doing what they need to do, and it makes it happen. What typically happens, though, is a traditional business, someone within the senior echelons of the business will look out and they'll say, but XYZ little company is doing this. How are they able to do it and we're not? And that's when the discussion at the sort of the C level starts to say, okay, but we need to be thinking differently. And then as soon as you start saying thinking differently, then there's change. So a traditional business has to be able to say, how do we change? How do we do things differently? What we jointly with Google Cloud look to do is to make people think. And when I say people, businesses think in such a way as to say, how do we take the information we've currently got, all of that data that we've collected for years and years and years and years, and turn that into something that can make us money, or make our experience better, or grow our market, whatever that is. Not everything is about making pure money out of it, but can we make that useful? Can we start implementing cloud technologies like machine learning, which can be done quicker because of how you can scale within the cloud, and you can leverage APIs like the Vision API and the likes to really accelerate the use of machine learning within an organization. But how do you leverage that stuff so that within a business right now, without touching all of those traditional systems, how do I just take the data component and get value from it? And then once I'm getting value from the data component, what does that then lead to? And then you start that migration, because anything you're looking to move to the cloud, it's one of, you're not going to just, in the old days, it was all
Mm.
about lift and shift. And I say the old days like it was 100 years ago, it was probably 2 years ago. It's lift and shift. And now it's all about, you don't want to just pick things up and put them in the cloud. You want to modernize. You want to be at the forefront of technology. Some would even say at the bleeding edge, but I mean, that's not for the faint-hearted, because, then you're using stuff that's, still being tested. But I think the cloud technology for a traditional business is not necessarily about how do I save money. It's how do I keep my business relevant? How do I innovate so that my customers continue to love me? And how do I move forward? And I think, and I really admire this example, but when I look at Checkers and what Checkers did with Sixty60 when COVID happened,
yeah,
I personally will never look back. There's no such thing as me going to a shop now to grab, something when I can get delivered to my house. And that is a true, if you look at it and stand back, that is ShopRite and Checkers looking at something very much from the perspective of what a digital native would do, and they have done it really well.
Exceptionally well. I mean, even my mom can use it, and she's certainly not a digital native in the old sense of the word. So, I mean, they managed to do it exceptionally quickly. And to be honest, all the other retailers are still struggling to catch up. But when it comes to vendors, though, I mean, you've spoken about Google as being an exceptional cloud provider. Where do you believe Google is particularly strong compared to other cloud vendors out there?
I think there's a few areas, and I think if I'm to bring it to the digital native conversation, I think a digital native, it starts with the skills, and the skills within a digital native have to speak to things like developers. Your technical people that are going to help you build out this amazing digital solution that you're going to take to market. The first thing that Google Cloud does really well is it's really easy for developers to consume. It is as simple as possible for someone to fire something up, get used to it, get trained on it, and move it forward. So I think that's something that Google has done really well. And it's why there's so many small businesses that when they start out on things like Google Workspace, and they start building things in Google Cloud because it makes sense and it's straightforward. The technologies, once you're past that stage and now you're saying, okay, great, now why would I look at Google Cloud? I think there's two areas that really stand out for me. I think the one is data, and we've spoken about it a lot now, but data analytics, machine learning, all things to do with data. I mean, Google is just leaps and bounds ahead. And Google have got a product called BigQuery, which is this product where you can put your information in and it runs as a service. So you only pay for what you use in terms of the queries you run. Makes it very easy for any data-driven business to store the information, consume it, and then do real cool stuff with it. Yeah. And I think the second thing is it's a product called Kubernetes. I don't know how many of your listeners know about containerization or orchestration, but the ability for an organization to scale in a digital sense is the ability to throw up many, many, many units of whatever it is they're putting out to the ether. You can't just have one big instance because you will run out of resources. So containerization allows you to throw up various containers of information that people can consume. So if I go to a Takealot website and another 1 million people go there on Black Friday, we're not all trying to consume the same one. It's creating containers so it can scale out. Kubernetes is a leading technology. Kubernetes is something that Google invented and open source. So it's an open source technology, but Google is still the single biggest provider of information to that product. So for people to consume Kubernetes, the best place would be Google Cloud because it's from Google Cloud originally.
Well, I think you've sold me on it. So what do I need to do? If I want to start exploring Google Cloud, what now? Because I actually use a lot of Google Cloud just because I like the open source nature of it. I do find the user experience very intuitive as well. And I think there are many small businesses out there in the similar boat. What do you need to do if you want to take that leap? Because this is a step change. This isn't iterative innovation. This is really saying we're going from here to there.
Yes. So I think if you are looking to start your journey on Google, you can do it in one of two ways. One way is you can contact us and we can put you in line with a partner because you don't have the digital skills. You don't know where to start, or you're a traditional business and you're saying, this sounds pretty cool. How do we start? How do we not rip and replace everything in this business as painfully as possible, but how do we make this journey make sense for me in my business and for my business to its customers? Then I would say you want to speak to a partner, and for that you can chat to us, info@digicloud.africa, and I'm very happy to connect you with specialized partners who live and breathe this stuff day in and out. The other way to do it is if you're an entrepreneur, you want to get started. you can get started today. There's nothing stopping you. You've got a free Gmail account as we sit here right now. You've already had a taste of what it's like and how it works in terms of your personal, but now you want to start developing so you can start consuming. I think another thing that is fortuitous is, as we're having this discussion today, Google has landed its Equiano cable in Cape Town this week. So it's quite fortuitous that the discussion is now. But what that also means is that for any organization, traditional, digital native or otherwise, operating in South Africa, a clear benefit of working with Google is the ability to, when you are consuming Google services, you are on Google's network and thus secured within Google's network from Cape Town. And you have that value add.
Wow, and all of the the benefits that brings with it as well. Greg, it's been great pleasure chatting to you. Gregory McLennan, the CEO of DigiCloud Africa, who works with a team that really, as you can hear, is at the forefront of Africa's digital evolution and really is about engineering this new way of looking at your business, solving for problems, innovating, saving people time, and ultimately that's what entrepreneurs are in the business of doing, is delighting customers. And if you're not thinking about how you can do this with your data, how to catalog it, how to use it and exploit it, then I'm afraid you are going to be one of those who are left behind. Greg, always a pleasure. Take care.
Thank you, Michael.